Hello. You're pathetic and cheap, my girlfriend yelled as she tossed my engagement ring aside in front of her family. I walked out that moment and never looked back. Karma handled everything after that. My name is Kevin. I am 31 and I work as the manager of a neighborhood bakery in Portland. My days usually start before sunrise because bread does not wait for anyone. I open the shop at 5, check the ovens, go through deliveries, and make sure the morning rush runs smoothly. It is steady work and the hours are predictable. After a few years of saving and working my way up from assistant manager, I managed to rent a small house not far from the bakery and settled into a routine that is pretty simple. My girlfriend was Kate. She is 29 and works as a veterinarian at a busy animal clinic across town. When all of this happened, we had been together just over 3 years, and she had been living with me for about a year. The house itself is in my name since I moved in before we started dating, but we split most of the day-to-day costs like groceries and utilities. Kate is the kind of person who has a lot of confidence in every room she walks into. Her job keeps her busy with clients, surgeries, and long clinic hours. People tend to respect veterinarians immediately, which is understandable. My job is quieter. I spend most of my time around flour, ovens, and early morning customers picking up coffee and bread before work. For the first couple of years, things between us were stable. She liked that my work was consistent and that I was good with money. I liked that she was ambitious and had a career she cared about. Friends often described us as a practical couple because we both had stable jobs and fairly structured lives. Around 8 months before everything collapsed, I started noticing a change in how Kate talked about things. It was subtle at first. She began making small comments about appearances and status. My car, which is an older but reliable sedan, became a joke she would bring up around her coworkers. At the time, I brushed it off. What she did not know was that during those same months, I had quietly started planning to propose. I had been saving money for the ring and thinking about the right time to do it. I honestly believed she would be happy. What I did not expect was that the moment I finally brought out that ring would turn into the most humiliating scene of my life, and it happened right in front of her entire family. I did not rush the proposal. My work schedule is early and Kate's clinic hours can be unpredictable, so I wanted a moment where both of us were relaxed and surrounded by people who mattered to her. Kate has always been very family-oriented. Her parents host large dinners and gatherings almost every month, and she never misses them unless she is on emergency call at the clinic. About 4 months before the proposal, her mother invited us to a Sunday dinner at their house. It was nothing unusual. Her parents live about 30 minutes outside the city in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Her brother and his wife were coming too, along with a couple of cousins. It sounded like the normal kind of family evening we had attended many times before. I decided that was the moment. The ring I bought was not extravagant, but it was solid and carefully chosen. I spent weeks comparing options and picked something simple that looked elegant without being unrealistic for my budget. I manage a bakery, not a luxury brand company. Still, it cost more than any single thing I had ever bought before. Dinner itself went normally at first. Her father was grilling in the backyard, and everyone was talking about work, pets, and random family updates. Kate was in a good mood and joking with her brother while helping her mom carry dishes to the table. After we finished eating, everyone stayed in the living room talking. That was when I stood up. I remember feeling nervous, but also certain. I asked Kate if she could come stand with me for a second. She looked confused, but walked over anyway. Her family went quiet because people quickly realize what is about to happen in moments like that. I took the ring out of my pocket and got down on one knee. I told her that the last 3 years had meant a lot to me and that I wanted to build a future together. Then I opened the box. For about 2 seconds, the room was completely silent. Kate looked at the ring. Then she looked at me. Her expression changed immediately, and the next thing out of her mouth was something I will probably remember for the rest of my life. "You're pathetic and cheap." The room went completely silent after she said it. For a second, I honestly thought she was joking. Kate had a habit of making sharp comments sometimes, especially around her family, but the look on her face told me immediately that this was not a joke. She was staring down at the ring in the box like it was something offensive. Then she laughed. Not a nervous laugh. It was the kind people use when they want others to join in. She said that a bakery manager proposing with a ring like that was embarrassing. She started talking about how one of the doctors at her clinic had proposed to his wife with something much bigger. Her brother shifted uncomfortably on the couch. Her mother tried to say something, but Kate kept going. Then she grabbed the ring from the box. For a brief moment, I thought she might actually calm down and give it back to me privately later. Instead, she looked straight at me and repeated the same sentence again, louder this time so the entire room could hear it clearly. "You're pathetic and cheap." Then she tossed the ring across the living room like it was a coin she did not want. The small box slid across the hardwood floor and stopped near the leg of the coffee table. No one spoke. I stood up slowly, walked over, and picked it up. The ring was still inside. I closed the box and put it back in my pocket. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I did not stay there trying to defend myself either. I just said that I was leaving. Kate rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic, but I was already walking toward the door. Her father followed me to the hallway and quietly said he was sorry about how things went. I told him it was fine and thanked him for dinner. The drive home took about 30 minutes. During that entire time, my phone buzzed several times in the passenger seat. I did not check it. When I got back to the house, I unlocked the door, went inside, and stood in the kitchen for a minute thinking about what had just happened. Then I made a decision. Kate had moved into my place a year earlier. Most of her belongings were in the spare bedroom and our closet. So I grabbed a few empty boxes from the garage and started packing her things. I did not rush while packing. Anger usually makes people move fast, but that was not what I felt. What I felt was clarity. Something had broken in that living room, and it was not going to fix itself with another conversation. When someone humiliates you like that in front of their own family, the relationship is already finished whether they admit it or not. So I worked through the house methodically. Kate kept most of her clothes in the main bedroom closet. I took everything on her side and folded it into boxes. Jackets, shoes, work scrubs from the veterinary clinic, gym clothes. Anything that belonged to her went into a box. The spare bedroom had a dresser she used for extra things, so that got emptied too. While I was doing that, my phone kept vibrating on the kitchen counter. At some point I checked it. There were 12 missed calls from Kate and several messages. The first few were angry. She asked why I left so suddenly and said I embarrassed her by walking out in front of everyone. The later messages were more aggressive. She said I needed to come back and talk like an adult. I did not reply. Instead, I continued packing. The house was mine. My name is on the lease and every utility bill. When Kate moved in, we never added her officially because it was meant to be simple. At the time, that felt convenient. That night, it made things very straightforward. Around an hour later, most of her belongings were already boxed up. I stacked the boxes near the front door so they would be easy to move later. Her toothbrush, makeup bag, and a few things from the bathroom went into a smaller bag on top. I had just finished taping the last box when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Headlights flashed across the living room wall through the window. A moment later, the front door unlocked. Kate walked in. Her expression immediately changed when she saw the stack of boxes waiting by the door. Kate stood in the doorway staring at the boxes like she was trying to process what she was seeing. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she asked what the hell all of that was supposed to mean. I did not raise my voice. I simply explained. I told her that what happened at her parents' house ended the relationship for me. I reminded her exactly what she said and how she said it. I pointed out that it was not a private argument between two people. She chose to insult me in front of her entire family and throw the ring like it was garbage. Kate immediately tried to downplay it. She said I was overreacting and that it was just a joke that did not land well. Then she switched to blaming me. According to her, the ring itself was embarrassing and I should have known better considering the kind of people she works with. That explanation actually made the decision even easier. I told her the boxes by the door were her belongings. Everything from the closet, the spare room, and the bathroom was packed. I said she could take them tonight or come back tomorrow with her brother and pick them up. Her attitude changed instantly. She started saying I could not just throw her out of the house like that. I calmly reminded her that the house is rented in my name only, and she moved in informally. There was no lease with both of us on it. Then I opened the front door. I told her the relationship was over and that I expected the house key back before she left. After a few seconds of glaring at me, she finally pulled the key off her keychain and dropped it on the table near the door. She dragged 2 boxes out to her car and came back for the rest without saying much else. Once the last box was gone, she stood on the porch and said I would regret this. I did not respond. I simply closed the door. The first thing I did after that was take my phone out and block her number. Then I blocked her on every social media account I had. As far as I was concerned, the situation was finished that same night. The next morning, I woke up at 4:30 like I normally do for work. For a few seconds, I forgot what had happened the night before. Then I saw the empty half of the closet when I got dressed and remembered everything very clearly. Strangely, I did not feel angry anymore. Mostly I just felt calm. The bakery opened at 5, and mornings there are too busy to spend time thinking about personal drama. By 6, the regular customers were already coming in for coffee and bread before work. The routine helped more than I expected. Kate tried to reach me a few times during the next couple of days, but blocking her number and social media made that fairly easy to avoid. The only reason I even knew she was trying was because one of her emails landed in my spam folder. I did not open it. As far as I was concerned, the situation had ended the moment she threw the ring across her parents' living room. About 2 weeks passed before I heard anything about her again. The information came from someone I did not expect. One of Kate's coworkers came into the bakery on a Saturday morning. I recognized him immediately because Kate had introduced us once at a clinic event months earlier. He looked slightly awkward when he saw me behind the counter, but he still walked over. He asked if we could talk for a minute. We stepped outside near the side of the building where deliveries usually come in. The first thing he said was that he felt I should know what had been happening at the clinic. Apparently, Kate had been telling people a very different version of the story. According to her, she rejected my proposal because I was financially irresponsible and constantly struggling with money. She had framed the whole situation like she escaped a bad relationship. Normally, I would not care about rumors like that. But then he told me the part that made the situation turn in a completely different direction. Kate had repeated that same story to the wrong person. And that was when karma started doing the work for me without me needing to say a single word. The coworker who came to the bakery introduced himself again and explained why he felt uncomfortable about the situation. His name was Ryan, and he worked as a veterinary technician at the same clinic as Kate. He told me that over the previous week, Kate had been telling the proposal story to a lot of people at work. According to her version, she turned me down because I was irresponsible with money and could barely afford basic things. She apparently described the ring as proof that I was financially unstable. I shrugged when he told me that part. People say things after breakups. I figured it was her way of saving face after what happened at her parents' house. I told Ryan it did not really matter because we were not together anymore. Then he explained the problem. Kate had repeated the same story during lunch one day while a senior veterinarian was sitting at the same table. That doctor happened to know something Kate did not realize. His younger brother buys bread from my bakery almost every morning. Because of that, the doctor already knew exactly where I worked. He also knew the bakery had expanded recently and that I had been promoted to manager the year before. Apparently, his brother talks about the place constantly because he likes the sourdough. So when Kate started describing me as some unstable guy who could barely support himself, the doctor questioned it. At first, it was just casual curiosity. But Kate kept exaggerating the story. She made it sound like she had been financially supporting me during the relationship. Ryan told me that was when the doctor openly challenged her in front of the table. He said something along the lines of that being strange, because the bakery she mentioned seemed to be doing very well and the manager there appeared to be running the place successfully. Kate tried to brush it off, but the conversation had already shifted. A few other people started asking questions. And once that happened, the version of the story she had been spreading started falling apart pretty quickly. Ryan told me the atmosphere at the clinic changed pretty quickly after that conversation. Once the senior veterinarian questioned her story, other people at the table started asking normal follow-up questions. Nothing aggressive at first. Just simple things like how long we had lived together and why she stayed in a relationship with someone she claimed could barely support himself. The problem was that Kate had already told different versions of the story to different people. Some coworkers remembered her previously talking about the bakery in a completely normal way. Others remembered her mentioning that I worked early hours, but that the place was always busy. Once people started comparing what they had heard, the inconsistencies became obvious. Ryan said the doctor eventually ended the conversation and went back to work, but the damage was already done. After that day, people at the clinic started looking at Kate differently. Apparently, she did not handle that very well. Over the next couple of weeks, she became increasingly irritated at work. Small disagreements with coworkers turned into arguments. A few clients had complained about her attitude during appointments. None of it was a single huge incident, but it was a pattern that people began noticing. Then another problem appeared. Kate had been late several times for morning shifts. Veterinary clinics run on strict appointment schedules, so even small delays create problems for the entire day. According to Ryan, management had already warned her about it more than once. Around that same time, her housing situation also started getting messy. When she left my place that night, she moved back into her parents' house temporarily. That might sound simple, but Kate had been very vocal for years about wanting independence from them. Going back there after the breakup apparently created a lot of tension at home. Arguments with her parents became frequent. By the time a month had passed since the proposal incident, Ryan said Kate looked constantly stressed and exhausted at work. And that was before the bigger problem finally caught up with her. About 6 weeks after everything happened, Ryan came back to the bakery again. This time it was late in the afternoon when things were quieter. I already had a feeling he was there with another update. He ordered coffee first, then leaned on the counter and asked if I had heard anything about Kate recently. I told him no, and that I had not spoken to her since the night she left the house. That was the truth. Blocking her number and accounts made it very easy to move on. Ryan nodded and said things at the clinic had gotten worse. Apparently, Kate's behavior had continued slipping. She had become increasingly defensive with coworkers and impatient with clients. In a veterinary clinic, that is a serious issue because most people walking in are already stressed about their pets. The real problem happened during a routine appointment. Ryan did not go into every technical detail, but he explained that Kate made a mistake while handling a fairly simple procedure. Nothing catastrophic happened to the animal, but the situation still required another veterinarian to step in and correct it. That incident forced management to review her recent performance more closely. Once they looked at the bigger picture, several issues came up at once. Complaints from clients, repeated lateness, arguments with coworkers, and the tension she had created in the clinic over the previous month. A week later, they let her go. Ryan said the decision was not dramatic. No shouting, no big scene. They simply called her into the office and told her the clinic was moving in a different direction. Losing that job hit her harder than the breakup apparently did. Veterinary positions in that area are competitive, and word travels fast between clinics. According to Ryan, Kate spent the next couple of weeks trying to find another position but had very little luck. At that point, she was still living with her parents, unemployed, and dealing with the reputation she had created for herself. Meanwhile, my life had returned almost completely to normal. The bakery was busy, mornings were predictable again, and the house was quiet in a way that felt surprisingly peaceful. That should have been the end of the story. But a couple of months later, Kate tried contacting me again, and that conversation turned out to be the final piece of karma I did not even know was coming. About 2 months after the breakup, an unfamiliar number called my phone while I was closing the bakery for the evening. Normally, I ignore unknown numbers, but sometimes suppliers call from different lines, so I answered it. It was Kate. For a second, neither of us said anything. Then she asked if we could talk for a few minutes. Her tone was completely different from the last time we spoke. There was no sarcasm or attitude in her voice anymore. She said things had been difficult lately and that she wanted to clear the air between us. I listened quietly while locking the front door of the bakery. Kate admitted that losing her job had been a major shock. She said the clinic situation spiraled after people started questioning the story she told about the proposal. According to her, everything just kept going downhill after that. Then she finally said what the call was really about. She asked if we could meet and talk about possibly fixing things between us. That was the moment I realized something important. When she threw that ring across the room, she believed she had all the leverage in the relationship. She thought I would chase after her, apologize, and try to win her back with something bigger and more expensive. Instead, the opposite happened. I told her calmly that there was nothing to fix. The relationship ended the night she chose to humiliate me in front of her entire family. I reminded her that I did not argue or insult her back. I simply walked away and moved on. There was a long silence on the phone after that. Before hanging up, she asked if I had kept the ring. I told her yes. Not because I was saving it for someone else yet. Just because it reminded me of a lesson that cost me a few $1,000s, but saved me from a much bigger mistake later. Then I wished her luck and ended the call. Since then, life has stayed simple. The bakery is doing well, my mornings still start before sunrise, and the house is quiet again. And honestly, that quiet feels a lot better than the kind of drama I walked away from that night. Bye-bye.